So I got this cardigan last week and I am already in love with this sweater. Like, this is gonna be a new favorite this fall and winter. Hello everyone, it is Samantha and I hope you guys are having a lovely day today. I am here once again to film a book review. Today I'm here to review Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. I received Foundryside from the publisher Crown Publishing in exchange for my free and honest review, which you guys are going to get today. So without further ado, let's dive into this review. Foundryside follows our main character of Sancia. Sancia is a thief that works in the city of Foundryside. Foundryside is a really unique city that is controlled by 4 separate merchant houses. However, these merchant houses trade in a unique good. It is goods that are powered by the use of sigils. So each of these merchant houses employ scriveners, and these scriveners apply these sigils to different pieces of equipment and weapons, what have you, and these sigils alter the reality of that object, so it enables the object to do things that it might not otherwise do in its innate form. It kind of reminded me a little bit of a computer code, so it was definitely a really interesting magic system. Basically, it kind of works a little bit like a computer code, almost, except they're etching it onto the item itself. Each of these 4 merchant houses are secluded in their own section of the city, which is called campos, and everybody else who is not part of the merchant family, aka the poor and the destitute, live in the common area. So it's basically this lawless, rough, not a very pleasant place to live kind of a neighborhood. And Sancia resides in the commons, and she basically is a thief that is hired to steal from the merchant houses. This is how she makes her living, but she definitely has a very unique past. She actually was once a slave. Not only was she once a slave, but on this plantation that she was forced to work on, they also tried to scribe human beings, which up to this point was impossible. And so far, she is the only known human being to be successfully scribed. And this ability that they gave her allowed her to basically sense the history and the surroundings of any object she touches. So she can touch a floorboard, know its entire history, as well as everything touching it. She uses this ability to kind of help her thieving skills because she can break through any lock and any door. And she is soon tasked she's tasked at the beginning of this novel into breaking into the wharves to steal a certain box from a safe. She, of course, successfully does this with some very interesting results, and she ends up stealing a box, and inside the box, because she couldn't help herself but look, she discovers a key. But there's a lot more to this key, and this key can talk. So that is the basic plot of Foundryside. I don't want to give away too much more without spoiling the book, but suffice it to say I thoroughly enjoyed this book. This is a new favorite for me. The book has a really unique plot. It's a very refreshing magic system, the use of sigils to kind of control inanimate objects, which is like it imbues them with a certain power. It's very unique, kind of reminds me a little bit of a computer code, and I just really liked it. So you don't see, it was just a new refreshing magic system. It was like a breath of fresh air. I also absolutely loved all of the characters, and there was so much humor in this book, and I love it. I love humor in books. I love funny fantasy books. And while there was a lot of kind of heart-wrenching moments and very, sad moments, there was quite a bit of humor in this story, which really kind of added to my overall enjoyment of this book. So not only was there humor, and not only was the plot itself kind of refreshing and new, but I really enjoyed Robert Jackson Bennett's writing. This is my first book by him. Has City of Stairs on my shelf forever, but I haven't read it yet. So this was my first foray into his writing, and I have to say I really enjoyed it. This was like a 560-ish page book, but it moved really, really fast. It was action-packed. There was also a mystery subplot because people are being murdered, and you don't quite know who hired her to steal the key, and you're trying to figure it out. They're the ones behind the murder. So there's just like a lot of mystery going on here too. So it's like a fantasy and a mystery novel, and I really, really liked it. It also introduces several very intriguing characters as well, in addition to Sancia. We also have Dondalo, who is basically the head of this police force he's trying to start. So there is no police force in Tavon, the Foundryside. There is no police force whatsoever. There's no laws enforced. Basically, it's just the rich win, the poor lose, that's it. But he's trying to instill a police force. So he's kind of like the chief of this new police force, and he's kind of like a Sherlock character, which I really enjoyed. You also have the character of Orso, who is basically the head of the scriveners for House Dondalo, which of course is where our character Gregor Dondalo is from. And then you have Orso's right-hand woman, Bernice, and there's like a nice little romance that starts blossoming between Sancia and Bernice, which I also quite enjoyed. So and then of course you have Clef the Key, who is full of a lot of humor. So there was a lot of fantastic characters that really helped to make this book. So in addition to all the action-packed moments and the mystery, you had these great characters that kind of brought everything together. And to make things even better, this world has a very fascinating history. There used to be these kind of mythical beings thousands of years ago who had control of the language of the sigils. There was 2 languages. There was the language of the gods and the language of reality, like the everyday things. And they had control of both, and they were able to manipulate the world in some horrifying ways. And basically this is what led to their downfall. But the humans are starting to relearn the things that these ancient people once knew, and that's kind of where our story really starts to take off because he realized the past is kind of coming back to haunt everybody. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I just had so many things I loved about it. So to sum up my feelings, I ended up rating this book 5 out of 5 stars. I gave the writing 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed Robert Jackson Bennett's writing. He was able to convey humor. All of his characters have very individual personalities that you could tell them apart even if you were reading another character perspective. I ended up rating the characters 5 out of 5 stars. Characters are probably my favorite part of this book. They're definitely what made the story. A lot of the humor and just, I don't know, the banter was fantastic to read. I gave the plot 5 out of 5 stars. It was an original plot with a unique magic system that I found myself really enjoying. And I gave the world building 4.5 out of 5 stars. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more world building in terms of the history of this world, a little bit more context for what happened back with like the ancient humans who knew the full use of the sigils, but I have a feeling we're going to get that into the future books, so it wasn't like a super big deal, but it would have been nice to see. But he really did have some pretty great world building. But I also would have liked to have seen like what else was in this world. Like there's clearly more to this world than just a city. They mentioned wars, so I would have liked to have seen like what other countries and cities were in this world. Like what country is Tavon a part of? Is it his own country? Like there has to be more. Like are humans just so rare that there's not that many civilizations? So I'm hoping we'll get some more of that in the future books. That's kind of why I ended up knocking it off 1/2 star, because I kind of would have liked to have more context for this world. So I gave it an overall rating of 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I cannot wait to continue on with the future books. It seems like things are going to get very exciting, and I am a new fan of Robert Jackson Bennett. Alright guys, that is it for my review of Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. I really enjoyed this book. If you have read this, I would love to know your thoughts and feelings on it because it was such a fun read and I want to talk about it with everyone. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Until next time, happy reading. Bye!